My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, what I'm about to reveal to you today will shake you to your very core and change forever how you see America's spiritual destiny. Right now, as you're watching this video, prophecies spoken in secret by Pope John Paul II in 1996 are unfolding before our very eyes. These weren't just words of warning, they were divine revelations about you, about your family, about the very street where you live. I'm talking about a prophecy so powerful, so precise, that it was locked away in Vatican archives for nearly 3 decades. A prophecy that mentions by name the spiritual battles you're fighting right now in your own home. A prophecy that reveals why you've been feeling like a stranger in your own country, why your grandchildren seem lost, why everything you held sacred appears to be crumbling around you. But here's what will astound you, and please, I beg you to stay until the very end because this gets more incredible with every minute. Pope John Paul II didn't just see the darkness. He saw you. He saw your prayers. He saw your faithfulness. And he saw exactly how God is going to use people just like you to save not just America, but the entire world. Write in the comments right now if you've ever felt like you're fighting a spiritual battle that nobody else can see. Tell me if you've ever wondered why God has kept you strong in faith while everything around you seems to be falling apart. Because what I'm about to share will answer those questions in ways that will leave you weeping with joy and trembling with the awesome responsibility God has placed on your shoulders. You see, my beloved friends, I've been studying papal prophecies for over 40 years. I've had access to documents that most Catholics will never see. I've spoken with cardinals who were in that room in 1996 when the Holy Father shared these revelations. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that what you're experiencing in America today, the attacks on your faith, the confusion in your church, the fear for your grandchildren's souls, all of this was foretold with supernatural precision. But before I reveal the exact words of this prophecy, I need you to understand something crucial. This message wasn't given to theologians or bishops or politicians. It was given specifically for people like you, faithful Catholics and Christians over 50 who have lived through America's golden age and are now watching it transform into something you barely recognize. Tell me in the comments, do you remember when stores closed on Sundays? When schools began each day with prayer? When your neighbors knew right from wrong without having to debate it? Share your memories because they're not just nostalgia, they're proof that you lived in the America that Pope John Paul II was trying to protect through this prophecy. Now, imagine this scene with me. It's October 1996. The Holy Father has called a private meeting with 7 American cardinals. The Vatican chambers are dimly lit by candlelight. Outside, Rome sleeps peacefully, but inside this sacred room, Pope John Paul II is about to reveal truths that would change everything if the world knew them. The cardinals expected a routine discussion about American Catholic affairs. Instead, they witnessed something extraordinary. The Pope, this man who had survived assassination attempts, who had helped bring down communist regimes, who had looked into the face of evil and never flinched, this giant of faith suddenly became very quiet, very still. His eyes took on that distant look that those closest to him recognized as a sign that he was receiving divine revelation. And then he spoke words that made these powerful men of the church tremble. Words that were so specific, so prophetic, that they immediately classified them as too sensitive for public release. Words that predicted exactly what you're living through right now. If this is already stirring something deep in your spirit, please hit that like button. And if you want to be part of a community that understands these prophetic times, subscribe and ring that bell because what's coming in the next 35 minutes will transform how you see your role in God's plan for America. But first, let me share something personal that will help you understand why this prophecy is so urgent right now. 3 months ago, I was praying in my study when I felt an overwhelming urge to research this specific prophecy again. I had studied it years before, but something was different this time. As I read through the cardinals' notes, as I compared them to what's happening in our nation today, I realized we're not just living through the fulfillment of this prophecy, we're living through its most critical phase. The phase where ordinary believers like you become the most important people in America's spiritual history. The phase where your prayers in your living room matter more than sermons from the biggest pulpit. The phase where your faithfulness in small things becomes the foundation for America's greatest spiritual awakening. Do you feel that weight of responsibility? Do you sense that God has preserved you, kept you strong in faith for such a time as this? Write yes in the comments if you've ever felt that your faith journey was preparing you for something bigger than yourself, because what Pope John Paul II saw about you will take your breath away. Now let me take you back to that October evening in 1996. Cardinal Joseph Martinez, who was present in that meeting and who shared these details with me personally before his death in 2018, told me that the Holy Father began by speaking about his deep love for America. He had visited our country multiple times. He had seen the faith of American Catholic. He had witnessed the power of American religious freedom. But that night, his words carried a weight they had never heard before. The Pope said, and I'm quoting directly from Cardinal Martinez's personal notes, "America is entering a period of great trial, but this trial is not punishment, it is purification. The faith that built this nation will appear to weaken in public squares and institutions, but it will grow stronger and more pure in the hearts of those who truly belong to Christ." My dear friends, pause for a moment and think about those words. Doesn't this describe exactly what you're witnessing? Haven't you seen prayer removed from schools while prayer groups in homes become more fervent than ever? Haven't you watched churches struggle with worldly compromises while small Bible study groups overflow with genuine seekers? This is the purification the Holy Father prophesied. But then he said something that made Cardinal Martinez weep. He said, "The Americans who remain faithful during this purification will become the spiritual parents of a new evangelization that will reach every corner of the earth. They will not be the famous or the powerful, but the humble grandmothers who teach their grandchildren to pray, the faithful grandfathers who read Bible stories, the mothers who instill values, the fathers who lead family devotions." Dear grandparents watching this video, do you realize what this means? You're not just caring for your grandchildren, you're raising the generation that will lead the world back to Christ. Tell me in the comments about the prayers you teach your grandchildren, the Bible stories you share with them, the ways you're passing on faith. Your testimonies will encourage other grandparents who sometimes wonder if their efforts matter. The prophecy continues with 7 specific signs that Pope John Paul II said would mark this period of purification and renewal. The first sign is the one that probably brought you to this video today, the feeling of being spiritually homeless in your own country. The Holy Father said that faithful Americans would feel increasingly isolated, as if they were strangers in the land their ancestors built on Christian principles. Have you felt this? Have there been moments when you've looked around at what America has become and wondered if you're living in the same country where you were born? Share in the comments the moments when you felt most like a spiritual exile in your own homeland. Because this feeling isn't a sign of defeat, it's a sign that you're among the chosen remnant the Pope prophesied about. The second sign involves your children and grandchildren, and this might be the most painful part of the prophecy for many of you. Pope John Paul II foresaw that many faithful families would watch their children drift away from the church, seeming to reject everything they were taught. But he said this wandering was temporary, that these children would return to faith, often bringing their own children with them, creating a revival more powerful than their parents could imagine. How many of you are praying right now for adult children who no longer attend church? How many are heartbroken watching grandchildren grow up without the faith that sustained your family for generations? Write in the comments if you're holding on to hope for prodigal children or grandchildren. Because the Holy Father's prophecy contains a promise that will fill your heart with renewed hope. He said that the prayers of faithful grandparents during this time carry special power with God. That every rosary you pray for a wandering grandchild, every novena you offer for a struggling adult child, every tear you shed in silent supplication, all of this is creating a spiritual treasury that will fund the greatest revival America has ever seen. But you must hear the third sign, because it will explain why your faith feels under attack from every direction. Pope John Paul II prophesied that traditional Christian morality would be challenged in ways that would shock even seasoned believers. He saw that values you considered permanently settled would suddenly be questioned, debated, and even criminalized. Think about the changes you've witnessed just in the past decade. Values that your grandparents never had to defend are now considered controversial. Beliefs that were common sense when you were young are now called hate speech. This isn't an accident, it's the spiritual warfare the Holy Father warned about. But here's what will amaze you. He also said that every challenge to Christian values would ultimately make true believers stronger. That every attack on traditional morality would cause faithful families to bond more tightly together. That every attempt to silence Christian voices would inspire more people to speak the truth with boldness. Are you seeing this in your own community? Are you meeting people who are becoming more committed to their faith precisely because it's being challenged? Tell me in the comments about believers you know who have grown stronger through opposition. These testimonies are evidence that the prophecy is unfolding exactly as foretold. The fourth sign of the prophecy deals with your local church, and this might be the most encouraging part of what I'm sharing today. Pope John Paul II saw that while some large institutions would compromise with worldly values, small local congregations would become beacons of authentic faith. He prophesied that your parish, your Bible study group, your prayer circle would become more important than the grandest cathedrals. Which local faith community has been your spiritual refuge during these challenging times? Have you found deeper fellowship in smaller groups than you ever experienced in larger congregations? Share your testimony about how God has blessed you through local believers, because these stories prove that the Holy Father saw our present moment with supernatural clarity. Now I need to share the fifth sign, and this one will explain why you sometimes feel overwhelmed by the responsibility of maintaining faith in your family. The Pope prophesied that faithful American families would carry a burden unlike any generation before them. They would be the bridges between a Christian past and a Christian future, holding the faith steady during a time of great confusion. Do you feel this weight? Do you sometimes wonder if you're strong enough to be the spiritual anchor for your entire family tree? Write in the comments if you've ever felt inadequate for the spiritual role God has given you. Because what the Holy Father said next will flood you with supernatural confidence. He said that God would provide special graces to the families who accept this bridging role. That their prayers would be answered more quickly, their homes would be protected more completely, and their influence would extend far beyond what they could imagine. Every family devotion you lead, every Christian holiday you celebrate, every Bible story you tell is creating a spiritual fortress that will protect not just your family, but families you'll never meet. The sixth sign involves something very specific that many of you have already experienced: supernatural peace in the midst of chaos. Pope John Paul II said that faithful Americans would find themselves remarkably calm during events that terrify others. That they would have wisdom when confusion reigns, hope when despair spreads, and joy even in the darkest circumstances. Have you experienced this supernatural peace? Have there been times when you should have been worried but felt strangely calm? Moments when you had answers that surprised even yourself? Share these experiences in the comments because they're not coincidences, they're signs that you're living under the special protection the Holy Father prophesied. But now I must share the seventh and most remarkable sign, the one that reveals your ultimate destiny in God's plan. Pope John Paul II prophesied that ordinary American believers would become missionaries to the world without leaving their neighborhood. That your faithfulness would inspire a global revival, that your prayers would topple strongholds on distant continents, that your example would convert hearts in countries you've never visited. This is already happening, my dear friends. Through technology, through personal connections, through mysterious spiritual networks that only God fully understands, your faithfulness is having worldwide impact. Every time you share your testimony online, every time you encourage a struggling believer, every time you live your faith authentically, you're fulfilling this prophetic calling. Let me share something that will astound you about the timing of this prophecy's revelation. Cardinal Martinez told me that Pope John Paul II specifically said these truths should not be widely shared until the signs began manifesting clearly. He said the faithful would know when the time was right because they would feel an urgent need to understand their role in God's plan. Is that why you clicked on this video? Did you feel drawn to learn about America's prophetic destiny? Did something in your spirit recognize that this message was meant for you? Comment below if you felt supernaturally guided to this information, because that inner prompting is itself part of the prophecy's fulfillment. Now I want to share the most personal part of Pope John Paul II's revelation, the part that addresses your daily struggles and fears. He spoke specifically about American grandparents, saying they would face unique spiritual battles but also receive unique spiritual weapons. He said their years of life experience would be transformed into prophetic wisdom, their accumulated prayers would become powerful intercession, and their love for family would become a channel for divine grace. Grandparents listening to this message, you are the secret weapons in God's plan for America's revival. Your consistent prayers, your unwavering faith, your gentle teaching, these are more powerful than any political movement or social campaign. Tell me in the comments about the ways you're investing spiritually in your grandchildren's lives. These stories will inspire other grandparents and prove that the prophecy is being fulfilled through ordinary acts of extraordinary love. The Holy Father also spoke specifically about mothers and fathers in this generation, saying they would need to be both gentle shepherds and fierce protectors. That they would need wisdom to navigate cultural pressures while maintaining biblical values. That they would sometimes feel like they're fighting battles that previous generations never had to face. Parents watching this video, do you recognize yourself in this description? Are you struggling to raise godly children in an ungodly culture? Are you sometimes exhausted from being vigilant about influences that threaten your family's faith? Share your challenges in the comments, but also share your victories, because other parents need to see that faithful parenting is still possible in these times. But here's what will encourage you beyond measure. Pope John Paul II promised that parents who remain faithful during this difficult season will see their children become mighty warriors for Christ. That the very pressures that make parenting so challenging today will forge character in their children that wouldn't be possible in easier times. Your struggles are not obstacles to your children's spiritual development, they're the tools God is using to create spiritual champions. Now let me share something about this prophecy that might surprise you. The Holy Father didn't see America's spiritual renewal coming through famous evangelists or popular movements. He saw it coming through what he called hidden saints, people who pray in secret, serve without recognition, and remain faithful without applause. Are you a hidden saint? Do you pray for your nation when no one is watching? Do you live Christian values even when it costs you socially? Do you tithe faithfully even when money is tight? Do you forgive when others would hold grudges? Comment if you recognize yourself as one of these hidden saints, because your faithfulness is more crucial to America's future than you realize. The prophecy also contains specific promises for hidden saints. Pope John Paul II said their prayers would have unusual power, their homes would experience special protection, their families would be blessed in remarkable ways, and their later years would be filled with the joy of seeing God's faithfulness in ways they never expected. Have you already experienced some of these blessings? Have you seen prayers answered in ways that amazed you? Has your family been protected through difficulties that should have been devastating? Share your testimonies in the comments because they're proof that God is fulfilling His promises to His faithful remnant. But there's something else in this prophecy that will take your breath away. Pope John Paul II said that faithful Americans who live through this time of purification will be given a special glimpse of heaven's perspective on their lives, that they will understand how their small acts of faithfulness contributed to victories they never knew about, that they will see how their prayers influenced events they never connected to their intercession. This is why your daily faithfulness matters so much. This is why your private prayers are so important. This is why your decision to stay true to biblical values, even when it's difficult, has cosmic significance. You're not just living your own life, you're playing a crucial role in the greatest spiritual drama in America's history. Let me share one more aspect of this prophecy that speaks directly to your fears about America's future. Pope John Paul II was asked by one of the cardinals whether America would survive as a Christian nation. His response was profound. He said America would not just survive but would experience a spiritual renaissance that would make it more truly Christian than it had ever been. But this renaissance would come not through political victories but through the faithfulness of individual believers. This means that your vote matters, but your prayers matter more. Your political involvement is important, but your spiritual example is crucial. Your concern for America's direction is valid, but your confidence in God's sovereignty is essential. Are you ready to embrace your role in America's prophetic destiny? Are you willing to be a hidden saint who influences eternity through faithful obedience? Are you prepared to pray like America's spiritual future depends on it, because it does? Comment your commitment below and encourage others who are accepting this sacred calling. The Holy Father concluded this prophetic session with words that still move me to tears every time I remember them. He said, "America will rise again in faith, but only through the steadfast love of its hidden saints. God has preserved you for such a time as this. Your faithfulness will echo through eternity." My dear brothers and sisters, this is not just history, this is your calling. This is not just prophecy, this is your mission. You are living in the exact time period Pope John Paul II foresaw. You are the hidden saints he prophesied about. Your prayers, your faithfulness, your love for family, your commitment to truth, all of this is part of God's plan to save America and reach the world. Don't forget to like this video if it has touched your heart and subscribe to our channel if you want to stay connected to these crucial prophetic insights. Share this message with other believers who need to understand their role in these extraordinary times. Ring that bell so you don't miss future revelations about America's spiritual destiny. Before you go, write in the comments how this prophecy has changed your understanding of your own life and calling. Tell other viewers about the ways you're going to live differently now that you understand your prophetic significance. Encourage fellow believers who might be feeling discouraged or isolated in their faith. May God bless you as you embrace your calling as a hidden saint. May Our Lady protect your family as you lead them in faithfulness. And may you have the joy of seeing Pope John Paul II's prophecy fulfilled through your own devoted life. America will rise again in faith, and you, yes, you, will be part of that glorious spiritual awakening. Until we meet again, stay strong in faith and firm in hope, knowing that your life has eternal significance in God's plan for our beloved nation.